Secretary Noem, at the start of this hearing, you stood here and took an oath to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Then you sat down and dodged the truth over and over and over for a little more than 3 hours, so help you God. You repeatedly testified that you and the Department of Homeland Security will follow the Constitution, the laws, and the order of the Supreme Court. Well, the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution says that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And yet, a federal court found that the Department of Homeland Security, under your watch, believes that it has a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process. So you did not tell the truth to this committee today when you said you would follow the Constitution and comply with due process. You also testified that you follow orders of the Supreme Court of the United States and all courts. But the Supreme Court unanimously directed the government to facilitate the return of Kilmar Garcia to the United States. But you just testified before this committee that Kilmar Garcia will never return to the United States. So you didn't tell the truth to this committee again when you said that you comply with court orders and decisions. You've overseen the deportation of U.S. citizen children and have claimed that their parents chose to take their children with them. But you produced no evidence that the mother, let alone both parents, of those children freely gave consent to have their children deported from the United States. In fact, everyone involved in those cases say that the mothers, in fact, did not want their children, especially their sick American children, deported. In fact, your agency lured families to ICE appointments under false pretenses, lied to them, refused to let them speak with an attorney or children's father, and deported them before a court had time to even hear the case. You've given yourself the unilateral right to deport anyone you deem a threat. You refuse to comply with court orders that try to stop you. That puts all of us at risk. Beyond your false testimony about the administration's deportation policies, you falsely stated that the administration is focused on a full range of DSH's missions. Instead, your budget request appears to reflect a view that DHS's sole purpose is to be a border wall construction agency that deports U.S. citizen children with cancer. Your budget proposed cuts to cybersecurity, emergency preparedness, and aviation security. Even before asking Congress for these budget cuts, you've overseen mass reductions in the workforce at CISA and FEMA. Despite repeated requests from this committee on how many people have been fired or have been bullied into quitting before their tenure, DHS has refused to share that information. So it should worry every American that we do not know how many people are left at FEMA to respond to disasters and how many cyber defenders still work at CISA as China and other adversaries attack our systems every day. And you made clear in response to my questioning, you have no written plans for FEMA. It is very apparent that also is no plan for CISA, where you are trying to gut the agency's funding and falsely claiming that CISA is a censorship agency. Since CISA never censored anyone, but now we are all paying the price for you buying into a baseless conspiracy theory. Secretary Noem, I'm glad that you finally came to testify before this committee, but I'm disappointed, along with a lot of my Democratic colleagues, that you stood here and took an oath to tell the truth, then repeatedly failed to do so to this committee. Let me just say, if you dance with the devil long enough, he's liable to follow you home. I hope that you will stop dancing around the truth and start telling the truth so this committee can do its work, helping to defend DHS from the attacks you've launched against it.
What we witnessed wasn't just another heated committee exchange, it was a reckoning. A moment where the truth stood up in a room full of power and dared people to look it in the eye. Congressman Bennie Thompson didn't simply question Secretary Kristi Noem, he confronted her. He peeled back the political theater and showed the raw consequences of what happens when truth becomes disposable. Collateral damage in the pursuit of power. This hearing wasn't about partisan bickering or political optics. It was about something far more fundamental. Accountability. It was about whether the Secretary of Homeland Security serves the Constitution or whether she answers to a single man, Donald Trump. And when Thompson said firmly, "You didn't tell the truth," he wasn't firing a political shot. He was defending the cornerstone of democracy, the rule of law. That foundation is the only thing standing between a functioning democracy and creeping authoritarianism. Let's talk about what's really at stake here. The Fifth Amendment isn't a suggestion or some bureaucratic guideline. It is clear, concise, and absolute. No person, not citizen, not legal resident, but no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That principle is the heartbeat of American justice. Yet according to the evidence Thompson laid out, Noem's DHS has been deporting U.S. residents, even children, without hearings, without lawyers, and in open defiance of federal court orders. That isn't a misunderstanding. It isn't a paperwork issue. It's unconstitutional. But Thompson didn't stop there. He revealed something even more alarming. A unanimous Supreme Court ordered DHS to bring back a man who was illegally deported, and Noem's department refused. Think about that. Not ignored, not delayed. Refused to obey the Supreme Court. That isn't bad management. That is executive defiance of judicial authority. That is the kind of behavior that cracks the balance of powers this country was built on. Thompson drew a bright, unmistakable line between officials who still believe government is bound by law and those who treat power as a personal weapon. Public office isn't a permission slip to rewrite the Constitution. It is a responsibility to obey it, even when it's inconvenient, even when it contradicts the agenda of the person you're loyal to. And here's the twisted irony. While DHS under Noem is cutting critical funding to FEMA and cybersecurity, agencies designed to protect the American people, it somehow finds extra time and money to pursue politically motivated deportations, including against sick children. That is not leadership. That is cruelty dressed up as patriotism. So when Thompson warned, if you dance with the devil long enough, he'll follow you home, he wasn't being poetic. He was giving a reality check to every official who thinks loyalty to Trump outweighs loyalty to the Constitution. Because history always catches up. The truth always comes due. This isn't left versus right, it's right versus wrong. The Department of Homeland Security should protect families, not terrorize them. It should uphold due process, not bypass it. And if Kristi Noem cannot grasp that, Thompson is correct. This is no longer just about oversight. It's about accountability. And that's why platforms like this exist, because moments like these will never make primetime headlines. But here, we refuse to let them disappear into the chaos. Here, the truth has a home. If you believe facts matter, if you believe the Constitution still means something, stay with us, because the fight for truth doesn't end when the hearing adjourns. It starts there.